Hi, folks. This is Mark Smith with Family Tree Brand Life Coaches, and I have another topic on borderline personality disorder. It's called How Treatable is Borderline Personality Disorder. Before I get into the material, I just wanted to say that I'm just filled with gratitude. I had an amazing week where I saw more clients this week than I probably have in a week in a 10-year period. But all week long, I had a clear brain and plenty of energy. And there were just amazing stories unfolding on the therapy couch this week. And then today I thought I'd get up and just be a mess from the busy week, but I've had a clear, focused brain today. So I'm just so grateful for recovery and for self-care and how it clears your brain up and helps you to focus and helps you to thrive. So just wanted to say that. Y'all haven't heard a whole lot of that out of me lately, so I just wanted to say that. Okay, controversial topic. How treatable is borderline personality disorder? Well, let me ask you this. How treatable is cancer? It really depends on how bad the cancer is. There are some people with the diagnosis of pancreatic cancer, late stage, and that's a death sentence. Everybody knows going in, you're going to die, So that cancer, there might be a treatment that can buy you some time, and many times the treatment is worse than the disease or almost as bad as the disease. So it's the same thing with borderline personality disorder. It's just how bad is the borderline personality disorder. That's how treatable it is or not treatable. My older brother Chuck, he had colon cancer about 5 years ago, I think it's been, but they caught it early enough, and yeah, he had a pretty horrific surgery, but he's all better. He was treated successfully, and he's gonna hopefully live a long life, and he's been treated, and he's functioning well. And every now and again, we're out, and he has to go to the bathroom. He's got to get there quick. He can't wait around. But I hope my brother didn't watch this video. But how bad stuff is depends on how treatable it is. I'm working with a woman. I won't say from where. Let's say it's from Nevada. And let's say her name is Mary. And she's got a mother who raged a lot, and a mother who's a narcissist, and a lot of damage in her family of origin that plays out in her relationship. And she does sometimes some pretty hurtful things in her relationship. But I think her prognosis is excellent, even though she has probably a moderate level of probably borderline personality disorder traits. See, it's not you got it or you don't. You 100% have it or you 100% don't. It's a continuum. And Mary from Nevada, she has the 5 traits in therapy that give me every reason to believe that she's going to continue to get better and heal and develop a sense of self and heal the underlying causes of her rage and lack of sense of self. Because she's highly motivated, her behavior disturbs her, and she's deeply remorseful. But she's also highly teachable. In my career, I've worked with some narcissists, some counter-dependents, some borderlines, some people who just weren't ready and who were well defended, who just weren't teachable. In the Bible, in Proverbs, there's a verse that says, do not strongly confront a mocker lest they hate you. And the problem with therapy is that's what you're doing. You're trying to figure out the truth and get people to swallow down the truth. But in Mary's case, she's amazingly teachable. The third quality you need to have to do effective therapy is you have to be able to feel and embrace your emotional pain. Emotional pain that goes all the way back to your family of origin, the wounded little kid inside you. And many times with people with borderline personality disorder, they have too much pain. So it's sort of like the story of the three bears, it's like, has to be just right. You want somebody who's feeling a lot of pain, but not debilitating, paralyzing, dissociative disorder causing pain, where the tendency is to want to numb that pain out, or just facing the pain in their work and in their therapy is too overwhelming. The fourth thing is perhaps, if it's not the most important quality, it's near the top of the list, and it's the ability to trust the therapist. The ability to build a safe and trusting therapeutic alliance. And people who have severe borderline personality disorder, they have really difficulty trusting. By the way, I want to send love and affirmation out there for people who have this diagnosis. I don't have an axe to grind. I'm not mad at you. I don't judge you. I don't think you're bad people. Sometimes some of my videos in the past, maybe I didn't put enough empathy and compassion in the tone of my voice as I was talking about things, but this video is for you, and it's sending out positive message and unconditional positive regard in your direction. So, but if trust can be built in a therapeutic alliance, then that's a major sign. But people that have grown up really trust damaged, they're always sort of looking at the therapist like, what's their agenda? Are they after my money? Are they aligned with my significant other? Are they trying to manipulate me emotionally? Are they a narcissist? There's constantly issues around trust. And then the last quality that people need to have is they need to do a lot of homework. They need to go to 12-step meetings. They need to watch videos. They need to read books. So if I can get somebody with mild to moderate borderline personality disorder to be highly motivated, to be very open-hearted and non-defensive, and to manage their pain and to trust the process and to do the homework, they're treatable, in my opinion. So for more information about specifically the traits, I have another video called 15 Traits of Healing Therapists for Borderline Clients. So look for that on YouTube, 15 Traits of Healing Therapists for Borderline Clients. But I wanted to go through and as quickly as I can just give the diagnosis, give the criteria for borderline personality disorder, because some of you may not be exactly clear on what some of the criteria are. So I'm going to go over that, and then I'm going to talk more about these 5 qualities and how the treatment of a therapist, the approach that a therapist use, might really lend itself to the client developing some of these qualities. So the first one is frantic. This is from DSM-4. Frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. So people who have borderline personality disorder, they really have a strong intolerance for being alone or for people backing up from them and not including them. It tends to trigger their abandonment issues. An example would be a very jealous spouse grilling their spouse about their whereabouts when their spouse doesn't have a record or a pattern of infidelity or acting out, accusing them of flirting with the waitress. The waitress comes and maybe you're just friendly, but somebody with abandonment issues will interpret it as, hey, you were checking out the waitress. Getting highly reactive if maybe a significant other is a few minutes late, or becoming really jealous if there's a third party in your life. I remember when I was in a relationship with a borderline personality disorder lady, my former fiance, sometimes I would meet with an old friend from graduate school, and it was a female, but we were just friends. We've always just been friends, and we would meet for breakfast, but she would become insanely jealous and just go off in a rage, just assuming that something was going on. So when your abandonment issues are triggered, it's sort of like you become temporarily intoxicated and you don't see things in a rational manner. But these abandonment reactions are rooted in childhood abandonment. And the stronger the abandonment issues are from your parent, the stronger you're going to have frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment issues in relationships. So what happens is, let's say your significant other steps back from you this far. If you have abandonment issues, you're going to interpret it and it's going to feel like it's this far. And then you're going to react like this. And your spouse or your significant other is going to go, dude, I was just doing this, and then if they have shame, and then they're going to get reactive, and then it's a shitstorm, as you know. So I want to recommend my book on abandonment issues. What's it called? It's called Managing Abandonment Issues Through Recovery. So you can get that on Kindle. You can get that on off our familytreecounseling.com website. Managing Abandonment Issues Through Recovery. And that will tell you everything you need to know about abandonment issues. And there's a case study of like 15 different couples. The second trait of somebody who has borderline personality disorder is, in the beginning, they tend to highly over-idealize somebody, but ultimately they tend to viciously devalue them. So you go from being the greatest guy in the world to being just a horrific monster in their eyes. And it's like, most people, when we start dating, we see somebody up here and then we realize they're really down here. But if you have the borderline stuff, you put them up here with God, and then you put them down with the devil, when you get to the devaluation stages. So many times the new man or new woman in a borderline personality disorder conflicted life they've ridden in on a white horse to heroically rescue them. However, when the walls of their denial start to crack, it opens the floodgates for months and even years of unexpressed criticisms. So borderlines can become masters of devaluing and emasculating just about everything about their object of their desire. The object of their desire is the object of their wrath. I hate you. Don't leave me. the famous book on borderline personality, talks about. So the relationship becomes sort of a love-hate relationship that's very stormy and very unstable. Number three, there's an identity disturbance. There's just a lack of a sense of self, and that's an issue. That's a problem. So these identity disturbances, they might include confusion or lack of clarity about life goals, values, career goals, even sexual identity, what kind of friends you'd like and want. Basically, if you don't have a solid sense of self, you're going to have a hard time really finding meaning in life. So life is going to be flat and it's going to lack meaning, and you're going to want to fill yourself up with relationships or addictions. So number four is being impulsive in at least two areas that are potentially self-damaging. That can be spending. It could be sexual acting out, substance abuse, reckless driving, binge eating. So people with BPD tend to have addictive personalities. They're in a lot of pain. And as humans, what do we do when we're in a lot of pain? We medicate our pain. And they tend to be very needy. And when their relationship devolves into the devaluing stage, many times they've got somebody on the back burner, some new idealized lover that they can turn to sort of numb out. Number five is recurrent suicidal ruminations, behavior, gestures, or threats, or any kind of self-mutilating behavior. So for many mild borderlines, they make attempts at suicide that really aren't serious attempts, but sometimes even attempt that wasn't sincere. You could take too many pills and actually, successfully commit suicide, which is really tragic. So it was meant for a communication of, this is how much pain I am. So self-punishment is also common. This could be an eating disorder. It could be excessive exercise. It could be just that inner voice of shame. It could be cutting. Number six is emotional instability. So living with somebody with borderline personality disorder, it's like riding a roller coaster ride. There's lots of ups and downs. They can mood shift on a dime, man. They can be really exhilarated in 1 minute, and then they can be anxious, and then they can be full of rage, and then they can be deeply saddened. And this typically leaves their partners tend to be either stoic or they tend to be rescuers and empaths. So it leaves them really confused as they try to sort of fix things. It's like somebody who has borderline personality disorder. They're missing the anchor to their souls. They're missing something solid and consistent in their sense of self. Sometimes when that happens, they're sort of like a feather blowing around in a storm. I remember when I was a boy, one day for dinner, we were having dinner and everything seemed to be fine. And my mother picked up a glass. This one's made out of metal, but it was made out of plastic. It was one of those Tupperware glasses, that used to be popular. And it was filled with ice water, and she threw it across the room and screamed and cussed because she said she doesn't like plastic glasses. She likes glass glasses. And I remember that to this day, just how traumatizing that was and how shocking that was that she would throw the glass like that. in terms of emotional instability, my former relationship, my former fiance, sometimes she'd come home from work, or she could have maybe come home from her boyfriend's house, and maybe they had a fight or something. But she came home and she in emotional turmoil, or she'd come home and she had been fighting with her little boy on the way home, and so life was a roller coaster ride. And what I've found since I've not been in a relationship with somebody with borderline personality disorder is there's a lot more peace, there's a lot more solidness. You know, it's more like walking around the amusement park rather than riding the roller coaster ride. Number 7, they have chronic feelings of emptiness. There's just a big empty hole in their soul, and they attempt to fill that hole with external objects, substances, or people. And this tremendous chasm in their souls is the thing that fuels their desperate efforts to capture, control, and then cling to their treasured object of desire, but also their hated object of desire and affection. Number 8, they have intense anger. They can be somebody with mild to moderate borderline personality disorder. They can sometimes be a little scary. Somebody with severe borderline personality disorder, they're scary as hell. They can be sometimes monstrous. But mild to moderate, they, you know, a mild borderline are usually loyal. They're usually emotionally connected and creative, but they have a dark side, and they tend to stir the pot. You heard that phrase, nobody stirs the pot like somebody with borderline personality disorder. They pit people against people. They talk about people. They vent. They triangle. They develop flying monkeys. There's all kinds of drama. As they progress in their therapy, frequently the strengths and the positives overcome the rough edges of their destructive dark sides. Number 9 is 2 parts. They have transient stress-related paranoid ideation. What does that mean? They're just paranoid. That's all. They question the motives of even safe and well-meaning people. During childhood, they learned there wasn't a consistently safe place in the world for them. They were abandoned, they were abused, they were neglected, they were criticized, they were unloved. They weren't given what they needed to grow up healthy and happy. So how could they trust? And then they carry that mistrust into their adult lives. So many times somebody with even mild to moderate borderline personality disorder, they have a hard time trusting the therapist. And the therapy is about building the trust. And in therapy, we focus many times on the process. We focus on, hey, what's going on in the room right now? You seem angry at me. So what are you feeling? Okay, you were 15 minutes late today, and it makes me feel like I'm not important to you. So how can I trust you? Or you yawned, you know, and you must be bored. Or they tend to have, tend to project onto the therapist motives and feelings and thoughts that are negative, that aren't necessarily true. So we process that in therapy. The other thing I want to say is, if I get somebody with who's in the neighborhood of having these borderline tendencies, I tend to downplay and stay away from couples therapy, because couples therapy can be pretty adversarial, but in order to build that alliance and that trust, really individual therapy is more indicated. Not that you can't do couples work, but to have that wounded little kid feel safe, many times you have to really build a strong therapeutic alliance first. The last thing, the second part of trait 9, there's severe dissociative symptoms. Sometimes, this is in my experience more with moderate to severe people with borderline personality disorder. So they have this unique ability to sort of stick their pain in a bye-bye mode for weeks and months and years at a time. This coping mechanisms help folks with borderline personality disorder stay in very dysfunctional and very painful relationships for way too long. So you might have a mild borderline who stays in a relationship with a narcissist or a covert narcissist for many painful, nightmarish years. Somebody with moderate to severe borderline personality disorder, they have the ability to cut and run. They can dissociate, and all their warm, fuzzy love for you, boom, it's gone. And that makes them seem cold and calculated. And they're not cold and calculated like a narcissist. But nonetheless, if they cut and run, it makes them emotionally dangerous. They needed that defense mechanism to dissociate during their childhood, and then they're sort of stuck with it. That's the same with all of us. Whatever defense mechanisms we got in our childhood, we're sort of stuck with it as adults. And that's the work of recovery and therapy, is to loosen up those defense mechanisms and heal the wounded little kid underneath. So, when somebody is in that much emotional pain, it's like the breaker switch in your house goes off and the electricity goes off. And here in our houses, we just go flip a switch and everything turns back on. But in this analogy, sometimes in a relationship, there's one final straw that breaks the camel's back, and the breaker switch goes off and it can't ever be switched back on again. It's permanently tripped and broken. So let me talk about 9 things that will really facilitate healing and recovery and growth and positive treatment for somebody with borderline personality disorder. I'm going to go through these really quickly. Number 1, the therapeutic relationship is the healing balm. It's like being reparented in a sense. I know that DBT is an effective treatment for borderline personality disorder, but and it's great, and go for it, but it's not the only treatment out there. Number 2, you need to have a non-medical model. Many of you know that I'm a big fan of Irvin Yalom, who wrote The Gift of Therapy, and he wrote, "The establishment of authentic relationships with patients," he calls them patients, "by its very nature demands that we forego the power of the triumphant of magic, mystery, and authority." What does that mean? Therapists who are aloof and who act like their shit don't stink, you're up here and they're down here. And they never let on that they have issues. Dude, they got as many issues as you do most of the time. We therapists, we got a lot of issues, and even if we work on them, you know, it takes a long time. So instead of acting like robots or like doctors or like power brokers or the Wizard of Oz, Irving Yalom suggests that it's better just to be real, just to be authentic and talk about one's reactions. Don't talk about one's needs and try to do therapy with the client, but just be real. Be authentic. It's sort of how I make my videos. I don't try to speak from, hey, I'm this, you know, really smart guy who knows all this stuff. I just talk from my heart, from my experience. Number 3, you got to find a therapist who's done their own work. You know, Yalom says, and Carl Jung said, only the wounded healer can truly heal. Number 4, process, process, process. So I'm going to read a quote from Psychology Today by a guy named Ryan Howes, and it's about Dr. Yalom's approach. Perhaps the most powerful yet simple tool in psychotherapy is focusing on the here and now, sharing the raw, honest, vulnerable thoughts and feelings about what's going on in the moment in the room. The concept has been around forever, but no one champions its clinical use quite like Irvin Yalom. Here and Now is based on the idea that whatever the client's interpersonal issues are, they're going to be played out in therapy, in the therapeutic relationship. For instance, if a woman who feels betrayed by all her friends and family, she's probably going to end up manufacturing a dynamic where she also feels betrayed by her therapist. A man who has anger issues will eventually get really angry at the therapist. So addressing the material that emerges in the room becomes the focus, and it helps to build the therapeutic alliance. Therapy becomes less talking about the issues with your narcissist or even the issues with your parents, and more about working with the issues in the room as they happen in the here and now with the therapist. So Dr. Yalom encourages therapists and patients alike to take vulnerable risks in being real and authentic and discussing what's going on in the moment, a noticeable shift that often bears fruit, by Ryan Howes, Psychology Today. So number 5, same thing as process really is transference is how you perceive the therapist or misperceive the therapist, and then countertransference is how the therapist perceives you or sometimes misperceives you. So you talk about those things. And it is a reparenting where if you have a therapist with high integrity and good boundaries and who offers unconditional positive regard but will tell you the truth and kindly punch you in the face when you need it, then you got something. So therapists cannot take devaluing personally. So if there is some devaluing comments made, you can't make that personal. So you have to just see it from the underlying wound, and it's all grist for the therapeutic mill, as they say. So much of the therapy is more supportive. It's not shove insight down your face. It's about the relationship, having a safe, caring relationship over a long period of time. And in this process, the therapist needs a supervisor so they can constantly be evaluating their own blind spots and their own reactions to their clients. So the therapeutic process with somebody with borderline personality disorder, it's about reparenting that wounded little kid who lives inside that adult body. With time, a lot of hard work, a lot of tears, a lot of trust, a lot of patience, and a lot of genuine care. If you suffer from borderline personality disorder, you can have some of the good things in life relationally and emotionally that we all want, like stability, like a loving relationship that's good enough, like inner peace, like a strong sense of self, like a full and rewarding, defining career. So again, however bad the borderline personality disorder, however bad or degree that it is, it's going to be that treatable or that not treatable. But I think there's millions of people out there who are treatable. They just have to connect with the right therapist, and it has to be the right time. They have to be ready to do the work. I've talked enough. Going to the movies with my lovely wife tonight. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll be notified of our Tuesday night live stream show, which we call the Church for the Narcissistically Abused. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to make a lot of the show tonight. Brenda's going to start it, and I'm going to come in toward the end. Check out familytreecounseling.com, and we've got books to buy about abandonment and about shame and about narcissistic abuse. So also we do Skype therapy. I'm getting real busy. I don't have a lot of slots open, but if you want to do Skype work, it's amazing how effective it is. It's amazing. So I hope nobody's been offended. I didn't mean to offend anybody. I'm just trying to offer an olive branch of hope and of kindness and of truth to people who suffer from this condition. So thank you for watching. God bless.